So what about when information you want does not lie an exact number of standard deviations away from the mean? That's when we use z-scores. So remember from last unit, we calculated z-score by doing x, so our data point, minus the mean, divided by the standard deviation. And what this actually gives you is it gives you the number of standard deviations you are from the mean. So we'll do an example here to see how that's useful. So All That Glitters, a sparkly cosmetic powder, is machine packaged in a process that puts approximately 50 grams of powder in each package. The actual masses have a normal distribution with a mean of 50.5 and a standard deviation of 0.6 grams. The manufacturer wants to ensure that each package contains at least 49.5 grams of powder. So question A here is asking us what percentage of packages do not contain this much powder. So first thing here is it is normally distributed. So that means that we are going to have that bell-shaped curve. It has a mean value of 50.5. So that is our mu. And the question is asking us what percentages of packages do not contain enough powder, so don't contain at least 49.5. So if we draw in our point where 49.5 is, we right now want to find the probability that there's less than that. Okay, so we're trying to figure out the probability that x is less than 49.5 grams. So step 1 here is going to be to find the z-score. So we do x minus mu divided by sigma. Okay, so our x here is the 49.5. We subtract our mean and we divide by our sigma. And when we do that on a calculator, we want to round to 2 decimal places. And it always has to be 2 decimal places because that's what the table allows for. So we get that it's negative 1.67. The negative makes sense because we are less than the mean. So we are negative 1.67 standard deviations away from that mean. What we actually do next is we go to what we call a Zed Score Table. Okay? And now the table is in your textbook. And it is on page 480 and 481. Okay, so that is the Zed Score Table that you're going to want to use for all your assignments and for all the questions. Okay, so if you turn to 480, 481, you will see a Zed Score Table. And what this table does is if we tell it a Z score, so if we tell it that Z value that we just calculated, and we look it up in the table, it actually gives us the probability of it being less than Z. Okay, so I do have a PDF of a table here. So since our Z score is negative, we're going to be looking at this side on the left because that's where all the negative Z scores are. I'll just blow this up a little bit. So we're looking at this table and we have negative 1.67. So the negative 1.6, we look along this first column here and we find the negative 1.6. So that's how we find those first 2 decimal places. It's along the first column. And then we're going to go all the way over. Okay, so once again, because it's negative 1.67, we go on the negative 1.6, which I've highlighted in yellow here, that row. And then we go over until we hit the 3rd decimal place of 7. So our actual value here, the probability, is right here. It's 0.0475. Okay, so we can go back now to our page, and the probability that x is less than 49.5 is going to be 0.0475. So it actually does all the work for us. It spits out the answer, and that's 4.75%. And there it is. Okay, so first step is going to be do a little sketch, figure out what you have, find a z-score, and then if it's the probability less than that z-score, then you just look that z-score up in the table, and that's your answer. Now, B here says, what percentage of packages contain more than 49.5 grams? So this time, we are finding the probability that x is greater than 49.5. Now, the Z-score table doesn't give us probabilities when it's greater than, they only give us less than. But we can always turn a greater than into a less than by doing 1 minus it, right? The probability of being greater than something is the same as 1 minus the probability of it being less than. Okay, and we're not going to put equal signs because the actual chance of it being exactly equal is really minuscule. So greater than or equal to, we're going to essentially ignore. Now in part A, we already calculated the probability of x being less than 49.5 grams. So I can just plug that in, and I get 0.9525, which is 95.25%. So a really, really high chance of there being more than 49.5 grams of powder. Okay. And part C here says what percentage of packages contain between 49.5 and 52 grams. Okay. So I didn't do a sketch for the last one, but I will now. So we were looking for being greater than, so we were looking for this section there. Okay, now for this next one, that's when a sketch becomes a little more important here. So once again, in the middle, we have the 50.5. That's our mu. Okay. And we're trying to find between 49.5, so that's the first value here, and between 52. So we're trying to find this middle part here. And remember, our Z-score table is only going to spit out the less thans. So our Z-score table will tell us the probability of it being less than 52, and it will tell us the probability of it being less than 49.5. Okay. And we want to find the probability that x is between those two values. So the way that we do that is we actually are going to find the probability of it being less than 52. So that would be this entire region. All the way down there. And because we've overcounted, we're going to subtract this bit. We're going to subtract it being less than 49.5. So we're going to subtract the probability of x being less than 49.5. So once again, we're going to do probability of it being less than 52, which is this entire thing, everything to the left of the 52 line. And then we subtract away everything to the left of the 49.5 line, and that will leave us with everything in between them. So we don't know the probability of x being less than 52 yet, but we have already calculated the probability of x being less than 49.5. So I can just copy that from the previous questions. Okay. To find x being less than 52, we need to calculate our second z-score. Okay, so we're going to do once again our x, which is 52, minus the mu, divided by the standard deviation. Okay, and round it to 2 decimal places, we get 2.50. So we're going to go to our table and look up the z-score for 2.50. Okay, so this time we are on the positive side, and we're going to start with the column, and we're going to look up the first 2 decimal places, so 2.5. We go all the way down to 2.5, and then we go across to the 0, and we get 0.9938. And then if we actually do that subtraction, we get that our answer is 94.63%. Okay, so that's the probability of having between 52 and 49.5 grams in the packages of makeup. So if you guys have any questions about this at all, please don't hesitate to email your teacher. Otherwise, good luck with the homework.